Dear colleague, on October 7th, 2023, early in the morning, Hamas, the barbaric Palestinian terrorist organization, commenced a wide-ranging assault on Israel, including the firing of thousands of rockets to extensive parts of Israel, and massive ground attacks on communities and army positions in southwestern Israel. During this barbaric attack, Hamas carried out unimaginable atrocities, including killing some 1,400 people, wounding thousands more, and kidnapping about 240 people to Gaza. The depravity of this attack is unfathomable. Hamas killed and tortured infants, children, elderly, sick, men and women, killed entire families in their homes, raped and killed young girls and women, cut open the belly of a pregnant woman and then killed her and her fetus and then her other kids, burned entire families alive, tortured and then killed families, and many more horrible and brutal acts of terrorism. They did this to Israeli Jews and Arabs and foreign nationals without any compunction. The evidence of this is overwhelming. I myself visited several of the massacre sites a few weeks after October 7th, and clear and hard to digest evidence of these atrocities could still be seen. In fact, I wrote a testimonial about it, which you can read. I don't know of anyone in Israel who does not have a loved one, relative, friend, or acquaintance among those killed, wounded, or abducted. This has directly and very personally affected everyone. What was carried out by Hamas on October 7th was plain and simple barbarism of the worst kind, hearkening back to historical figures such as Genghis Khan, or in modern times, the Nazis, the Khmer Rouge's killing fields, Boko Haram in Nigeria, and ISIS in the Middle East. Seemingly something that any compassionate person in any place in the world should condemn, without ifs, buts, understanding the context, and other explanations. But alas, this is not the case. Even on the very day of the massacres, pro-Palestinian demonstrators celebrated these atrocities, claiming that these actions were legitimate, as the Palestinians were oppressed by Israel. As soon as Israel fought back, the voices against Israel grew, claiming that Israel was purposely targeting civilians in Gaza. This, despite the fact that Israel was reacting to the Hamas attacks, had implored all civilians to leave the region of the city of Gaza and go to the south of the Gaza Strip, and Hamas was purposely using civilians as shields. If there is one thing that is agreed upon now by virtually all Israelis, is that Hamas is a murderous organization with the declared aim of killing all Israelis and Jews. If in the past some of us thought that this was more of a declarative statement and that with time Hamas would become more practical and recognize the right of Israel to exist, as of October 7th, 2023, it is clear to all that this is their actual planned and implemented policy. Hamas and its supporters must be destroyed and removed from the border of Israel. As of October 7th, all Israelis, including myself, have had to completely review their prior assumptions. This is the case for those on the left, center, and right of the political spectrum. It is obvious that many preconceptions on all sides were wrong. No, Israel's strength and settlements didn't deter Hamas. No, Hamas, as the rulers of Gaza, were not going through a process of de-radicalization since they supposedly had to think of the best interests of the people of Gaza. And no, as proven time and again, withdrawing from land did not enable the Palestinians to found a flourishing state. In fact, it often brought on more terror. And in the midst of all of this, the wave of hatred to Israel, denying its right to exist and defend itself, denying the atrocities committed by Hamas, and of course, a lot of outright anti-Semitic attacks that have broken out around the world is more than shocking. And most distressing are the simplistic accusations aimed at Israel that have been expressed by so many academics throughout the world. While one expects that researchers and students would have the ability to apply a critical and nuanced thinking while crafting their opinions, instead, simplistic, binary, and poorly fact-based accusations are fielded at Israel. It appears that the very ability to discern between good and evil has been abandoned by many. I'm not saying that the Hamas attacks forces one to abandon beliefs about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Divergent views on this are within the realms of the acceptable. But if being pro-Palestinian means that you support the murder, rape, torture, and abduction of civilians, including infants, children, women, elderly, and the sick, then you are a supporter of barbaric terrorists. The supposed claim that Israel cannot attack Hamas in Gaza since innocent civilians are being killed is a fallacy as well. First of all, many people in Gaza have and actively support Hamas. And in fact, once Hamas terrorists stormed the border, non-combatant civilians from Gaza crossed as well and participated in the plunder, rape, and murder in the Jewish communities around Gaza. More so, apparently among those Gazans that entered Israel after the attack, there were those who were in close contact with the Israelis in these communities that they attacked because they had worked there over the years. But despite this, I know there are many innocent Gazans who do not deserve to die because of Hamas. But, unfortunately, Hamas is using them as human shields. Hamas, for the most part, is not allowing civilians to leave, as Israel has implored them to, since Hamas wants human shields, and truthfully, Hamas couldn't care less if they are killed, except, of course, to use them as pawns in a propaganda game. Just imagine if in World War II the Allies did not attack the Nazis because there were innocent civilians in Germany. Would that be acceptable? Would that justify not destroying the murderous Nazi regime? Of course not. This is exactly the situation in Gaza, a murderous, barbaric, terrorist entity that aims to kill all Israelis and has demonstrated this in a savage and explicit manner. These terrorists must be eliminated, even if they hide behind their own people. Israel does not bomb indiscriminately. The IDF makes every effort possible to avoid civilian casualties. And since I haven't heard from you, I'm glad that I have the opportunity to update you. Many of my friends and colleagues have in fact written to me or called me to check on how I was doing. And I was not sure where you stand on this since I hadn't heard from you. I hope you will take a stand against the murderous barbarism of Hamas. But if you choose not to, you are placing yourself on the wrong side of history and morality. Just as those who condoned the murderous actions of the Nazis, of the Khmer Rouge, or ISIS should not be considered as being worthy of having anything to do with, so if you don't take a stand here and now, the rancid and repugnant character of your moral backbone is crystal clear. If you can't bring yourself to explicitly condemn the murderous actions of Hamas, I'm not interested in having any connection, personal or professional, with you in the future. Political disagreements are fine, but condoning and supporting the barbaric murder, torture, and imprisonment of civilians is not. Just as I don't have anything to do with neo-Nazis, I won't have any connection with supporters, explicit or implicit, of the barbaric Hamas terrorists. I do hope you take these words to heart. Sincerely yours, Aren Maeir.